Hi, everyone. My name is Bob Plass, and you are back. We are back, season 2. After 2 years off, we're back on Across a Common Table. It's Westfield State University's great interfaith program that is a product of the Westfield State Advancement Office, as well as Westfield State's Radio Club, and all of the administration down here at beautiful Westfield State, Westfield, Massachusetts. And this is a unique program. Across a Common Table. Well, we're at a table, and I have representatives of these wonderful faiths that are serving our community both here at the university and in our town. And I'd like everyone to meet our new panel. We've got Reverend Barbara Hess. Hi, Reverend.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you? I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, well, where are you from? And what denomination are you?
I am the minister at the Second Congregational Church, United Church of Christ, right next to the university.
Ah, so you have a lot to do with Westfield State.
Love it, yes.
Yes, yeah. And then we have Mother Nancy Stroud. Mother, I know you because of the farmers market and
Yes.
And the great community spirit of the...
Yes, we're at the Episcopal Church of the Atonement, which is on Court Street. One of the ministries of our church is running the Westfield Farmers Market. And another ministry of our church is the Choral Scholar Program, where 4 Westfield State University students sing in our choir every Sunday morning. So it's a great thing. And now we have a bunch of alums who are coming back for a concert this weekend.
So you've got good music.
We have great music
Great
at the
music.
Church of the Atonement.
Yeah. Well, speaking of great music, a man who is you're the Renaissance man as far as I'm concerned, Father Warren Savage.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You turned around the Interfaith Center here at Westfield State, the Albert and Amelia First Interfaith Center. Did I get that right?
Well, I take no credit. It's a team effort to turn anything around. So I always give credit to the team. You were part of the team, and the Westfield State Foundation, the Chaplains Council, the Interfaith Advisory Council, all of that together has brought about, in your words, a renaissance at the Interfaith Center.
Yes.
But our primary focus is simply to promote respect and understanding for everyone.
Sure.
Not just religious traditions, different cultures and different ways of thinking and different ways of living. It's all of that combined under that rubric of respect for everybody.
Yes.
And
Now,
upholding the dignity of every individual. That's key. That's key.
So, Father, you represent the Roman Catholic Church.
That's right. I represent the Catholic Diocese of Springfield. I'm officially assigned there, and I'm also the director of the Interfaith Center. So I have that distinct honor of at least administering to the Catholic population, but it's much broader than that. In the true sense of Catholicity, it's an all-embracing ministry. We welcome and serve everyone.
Right. And one of my favorite panelists from years back, Imam Rasul Saifullah.
You got it.
I can't believe it took me 2 years to learn how to say that last name.
You got it.
Imam Rasul, you represent which community in the area? And which
Al-Baqi
mosque?
Islamic Center for Human Excellence, which is located in Springfield. But we'll be moving to West Springfield shortly.
You will.
We're making that transition right now.
Uh-huh.
And I have to say this. When I grow up, I want to be like Father Savage. He is so smooth. Yeah, I tease him about that all the time. He is smooth.
He's a cool man.
He's cool.
You're cool. Well, my name is Bob Plass, as you guys know. And I categorize myself, for a lot of reasons, as a lapsed gay Catholic, because I think it's important to have. Yeah, I know you always. That always gets a laugh for some reason. I don't know, but we always get a laugh with my being lapsed. But I really think I represent a good percent of the population out there in more ways than one. I'm also a senior, so I'm a senior lapsed gay Catholic. You know, if I were an African American, if I were a black man, I'd have all bases covered, I guess. Maybe, huh?
You would.
Yeah.
You would.
Yeah. So, you know, it's a different time than when we first started this program a few years back. 2 years is a great distance, a great time period. What is it like to be chaplains in the Trump era, if I might call it that? Would somebody want to start? Who wants to? Mother, you. Yeah.
I actually have some stuff to say about that.
Oh, jeez.
You know, these times are times that religion can really help the people. The basic tenets of all of our faiths, and Warren was talking about this, respect for the dignity of every created person. God created each one of us. And we have different ways of understanding God, to be sure, and it's fun to talk about it. But God created each one of us, and therefore, when we respect each other, we are respecting God. And I don't think we're hearing nearly enough about that from our government. As a matter of fact, too often we're hearing the opposite. And I think that the work of the Interfaith Center is to help the students and the faculty and administration at Westfield State have a place where we can explore that and be proud of it and be examples of it out in the greater community.
I think it's a time, too, I don't know what you feel, but it's a time when religion, you sit at a table and you want to identify yourself in some way. And folks can identify themselves in a lot of different ways, as I just did, as a lapsed gay Catholic. But there is certain kind of fear that happens in today's world around that identification. And or do we talk religion? Do we, Imam? Do we talk religion in around the dinner table, at Thanksgiving dinner, at Christmas?
Many of us do, but not enough of us. There's not enough of us. This is not, I think, the environment. There's a lot of work that we still need to do, and we need to be really motivated and bring something to the people that they can use in their everyday life. I had an aunt that passed away. Her funeral was last Sunday, and we went out afterward. This is all family, my cousins, etc., and we were talking about the state of the world today. And I said, this is something that we have to leave in God's hands. This is above what we can do. And they said, oh, man, you used the G word. I said, what's the G word?
Yeah.
They said, you're starting to speak about God, and we don't want to hear it. I was shocked. Because these two intelligent people, well-educated. But they said the G word, and I had never heard that before, the G word. But I believe, from my experience, that most people really don't want to be bothered. When you look at the material world, everybody's getting whatever they want. And so the attitude that I see is, what do I need God for? I'm getting all the things that I need to do. I saw this program on TV, this movie, and the main characters were nuns. And this nun said to her superior, she said, what do you want out of life? She said, what I want, God can't give me. I said, whoa, that's a message. Yeah. God, there's things that God cannot give you. But I think what gives us peace of mind is that we know that there's a higher power. And those things, I think, is like the serenity prayer. We have to know those things that we can't change. But we believe that there's a God, and he can change it. We still have to do a lot of work. In Islam, it says God will not change your condition until you change it. Meaning, in your mind, you got to want to do this and take it as far as you can take it, and then God will take over. So that's what the Quran says about that situation. Sure. But religion is not in vogue today.
As somebody who works with students up here at the university, Father, do you find that there is a fear of talking God? Talking this G word?
I don't think there's a fear about talking about God. I think most of our students don't have a vocabulary to talk about God. It's not that they don't want to talk about God. It's not something that is in their toolbox. Yeah. I don't have the words. I don't have the experience because they have no reference point from which to talk about God. And so many of the students I encounter really come to the Interfaith Center with little or no religious experience whatsoever. They may have had one, but they don't know they've had one. And they
But
can't.
so what brings them to the center if they, you know?
So what brings me to the center are the cookies,
Yes.
the crackers, the potato chips, the soda, the coffee, the cocoa. So what I do is I create an environment of hospitality. I can't talk about God or anything else until I make someone feel welcome, that I really want you to be part of this experience. I'm not going to define it for you, but I'm going to have a space open for you where you can come and feel safe and secure and know that whatever questions emerge in your beautiful head, you can in fact have a place to have that conversation.
Well, Reverend Hess, when I'm driving down Western Avenue, your church is on Western Avenue, Second United Methodist Church. I drive.
No.
Oh my God, Church of Christ. Wait a
No.
minute. What, I've got it all wrong.
Barb, who are you?
Who
I was
are
gonna
you?
say, you stop talking and I'll tell you.
Yeah.
UCC, Second Congregational Church,
UCC, United
Church of
Church
Christ.
of Christ.
That's the denomination.
Right.
And then we are Second Congregational Church.
I see.
It was part of First Congregational Church many, many years ago.
I see. So I drive down and I see that
You see the sign?
sign. I see the sign. I don't get it right when I'm trying to say that's that church, but I wonder, how do you welcome? I mean, how do you get people off the street into that church? What's that? I mean, are you using the cookie approach? The you know?
Well, we have a sign out. We have two signs out. One is the one you're referring to, but the other is a big sign that says, whoever you are and wherever you are on your faith journey, you are welcome here at Second Congregational Church. And that is meant to be welcoming. Sometimes people say it's political. Well, it's not political. In our belief, it's biblical. Who did Jesus tell us to love? He told us to love our neighbor. Who is our neighbor? Everyone is our neighbor. And so we have the same philosophy that we have at the Interfaith Center. Who is our neighbor? Everyone is our neighbor, and everyone is welcome.
So in today's world, then, there must be an approach, a unified approach, then, to. Is anyone? I suppose it's the Interfaith Center who's working to get people to go to the mosque together. I mean, are you all wanting people, whoever they are, to find some place of safety, to find some?
Well, I think everyone's looking for a place of safety.
Yeah.
But beyond that, Bob, I think people are looking for a place where they can just be who they think they are, because we're all evolving. We're still becoming who we think we are, but that's an evolutionary process, to use a strange term. It's an evolutionary process that we are becoming something of an imagination that we have of ourselves. But I need a place in which I can explore this imagination of who I am. And so sometimes what happens is that along the way, the student's imagination is stifled. Their growth is stifled because no one allows them that space and opportunity to explore who I am. Everybody's a great mystery. I can't tell you who you are. Only you can tell me your story of who you are. But I have to be willing to listen to your story and not make a judgment on that story, but participate in the story with you as a friend, as a companion.
Well, and also some churches have told people that they are not welcome, that they are not loved by God. And so that's not the way we believe. We believe everyone is welcome and everyone is loved. And so to have somebody say, I've experienced it myself when I'm introduced as a minister and I get the, oh. I don't do church, or I don't have a good relationship with church. And I don't have to ask. I know at that point that they've been hurt. So then I just open myself up and let them talk. And hopefully they'll find that this minister, this priest, that imam aren't like what they've experienced in the past.
Yeah, I think that the welcome is at the heart of it. You said, are we interested in having people come into the church? And of course we are. So what I want to say to a lapsed gay Catholic is the Episcopal Church is both Catholic and Protestant, and gays are welcome. And straights are welcome. And trans are welcome. And I am welcome, and you are welcome. God loves all of us and created all of us. And so we are welcome to come in and explore who we find ourselves to be, as Warren is talking about, and who God finds us to be. And that seems how God sees us seems to me to be the great religious quest. You know, that when these horrible things happen, when a shooter comes into a synagogue, God didn't create that man to shoot up a synagogue. But he never found out who God created him to be. Right? So where can we explore who God sees us to be and how God sees us to be? And I think the work of the Interfaith Center is designed with that in mind. A safe place where, and what we're finding at the university is that it's not just for the students, it's for the faculty and the administration. It's a safe place for where we can come and ask these questions and serve one another. That's where the cookies come in, right? Serve one another, but also serve God however we're finding God to be this day. You know, God doesn't change, but we sure do.
It was interesting. We had an Interfaith Advisory Council meeting, I think it was last month, and it was one of the Muslim students who wanted to know about Christ. Tell me more about Christ. I think you were there, Barbara, for the conversation, and she wanted to know, why are Christians divided? And do you all think the same way, or do you all have the same belief? Or she was intrigued by the numbers of Christian churches, and it baffled her that we're not all just happily married together or unified together. And she was just wondering, well, who's this Christ that you supposedly believe in but causes so much division amongst you?
The Christ who causes division.
Because this to her was completely just, she could not wrap her head around, well, don't you all believe in Christ, and why don't you all just kind of have one place to be in and worship together? But the idea of, I want to know more about where this division came from, this disunity, and who is this Christ? That's a Muslim student making this inquiry. I find this fascinating.
Imam.
What I'm thinking right now is we add, not the people around this table, because I feel safe when I'm with you guys. When you think of the different sects of every religion, whether it's Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, with a lot of them, it's a lot of infighting. We're right, you're wrong. That's a message of confusion that's going to those people who are not tied into any one church. Why should I get involved in that? And the case for interfaith, we all have the same mission, is to spread the word, you know, to have people feel whole and valuable. And God put something of value in each and every one of us, and that something should be respected. And not, you know, I learned this in a reading. We shouldn't be tolerant. We should be respectful. And you need to think about that. Yeah. But on a higher level, knowing what our mission is, to bring people to God, and all the confusion that we're doing, I think God put something before us. Before we can be successful out there, we need to be able to work with one another. And here we are, quote, on the straight path, right?
Yeah.
Fighting each other. And the rest of the world's going to hell.
And so we're going to take a break, but when we come back, this path, which Reverend Hess said, as a faith journey, you all are on a journey. Are we on journey? Well, I'll ask that question. Let's talk about that faith journey and where it takes us and how to manage that. When we come back, well, let's take a break, and we'll be back with everyone.
Get it. Get it.
Get it.
Get it. Get it.
Is she gonna get it, Daddy?
She'll get it. Get it. Get it.
When you bring home a Goodwill find, you give your whole town a reason to celebrate because you're also funding local job training and placement programs in tech, healthcare, and more. Goodwill. Bring good home.
Welcome back, everyone. I am Bob Plass, and this is the new season of Across a Common Table. And I am sitting with four of the wisest folks that I know. Yeah, would you say that, right? Imam Rasul Saifullah. That's a name I've struggled with for a while, but I got it finally, I think. Yeah. Father Warren Savage. Mother Nancy Strode, and did I pronounce that correctly? No, Stroud.
It's Nancy Webb Stroud.
Nancy Webb Stroud. We'll
Thank
get
you.
the entire whole thing. Okay, gotcha. And Reverend Barbara Hess. And these are the chaplains of Westfield State University. And this program goes out to everyone in our community, and as well as the students as well. And before the break, we were talking about welcoming as the church, the mosque, the synagogue as being welcoming, safe places. To bring people or to be there for them on their faith journey. What is a faith journey? Mother Nancy, you want to?
I'm excited to talk about this because I'm a priest of the Episcopal Church, the presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church, who's the guy who preached at Harry and Meghan's wedding.
Oh.
Michael Curry is my boss. So he has begun a new initiative in the Episcopal Church, which is also an ancient initiative, and he's published it as The Way of Love. Because our presiding bishop points out quite rightly that the whole of Christian scripture is about the love that God shows for us and the love of God that draws us closer to who God is. And we talked about that a little bit in the first segment. So this Way of Love initiative is a way to follow God that honors both the individual's need for peace and comfort and security and love, but also acknowledges our need to serve others in the world, to turn outward, to help take care of all of God's beloved. And
Transactionally, in a sense.
Yeah. So, and of course, how else do we know the love of God except through the love of one another? And that's one of the things that we are pretty good at, I think, at the Interfaith Center. This is a place where we can take care of one another, whatever our individual faith interests are, right?
Yeah, Father Savage, you've been on this journey at the university for a while. That faith journey for students, is it different than my faith journey?
Well, I think again, I'm going to repeat what I said earlier. The faith journey is a response to the most basic question: who am I? Now, for those of us who belong to a faith tradition, we know that our full understanding, our humanity, is only going to be understood in relationship to the one who created us, God. So the answer to who I am is to have a relationship with God who will tell me who I am. That faith journey is really about answering that question: who am I in light of God's love for me? I may not know God completely, but I'll come to know God more completely as I come to know myself. Because God only can become who God is in my own self-understanding. So my self-understanding is an integral part of who God is. God's nature is love. I have to really love myself. And by extension, I have to love others.
And each one, I'm sorry.
No. But that love between, the people, gives us a sense of who God is. But that reality of who God is cannot come into existence if people are not, in fact, loving one another.
Right. Reverend Hess?
Well, the reality also is each one of us has our own strengths. And I don't mean just those of us who are clergy here at the table. Each person is given strengths by God. And I tell people who are sort of searching that if there's something, a fire in your belly, where you can do something that you really can't understand how others can't do it because it's so easy, that's something that, to me, God has put there. And finding that, as well as loving one another, is something that we can help students, we can help our parishioners do.
It's funny, at the Interfaith Center, some of the students will come in and they'll call me the imam. And other students will call me rabbi. But you know why?
Well, I suppose rabbi means teacher, and you are a teacher.
Well, but first of all, I think they
Well.
they see something about them is reflected in what I do, and so if they understand the Jewish tradition to be something of kindness and love, I look like that when I'm offering them the
Right.
cookie,
The cookies.
and the beverages,
Yeah.
and I give them a place of welcome. Oh my God, he looks like, he acts like, he sounds like, hi, Rabbi. And the imam, and I certainly sit there and go, whatever it is, but it's about this relationship. And
Yeah.
so they're
And
understanding.
it makes them feel
it makes them-
safer in a way, I
Yeah,
suppose.
but
you
I
know.
don't sit there and tell them, don't call me rabbi, don't call me imam, because I know that it's much more than that. Because what they're really identifying is something that is common to all of humanity, or should be anyway, should be common in all of humanity, that we show kindness. The Jewish people call it hesed. I practice hesed every chance I get. Even walking through this corridor, it's interesting that
We're here at the Westfield Technical
Westfield State,
Academy.
right? So
yeah.
we're walking through the corridor, and along my journey through this building, I am offering kindness by saying good morning, but nobody's responding back. So it's interesting that you could look at a student and say good morning, and the student will literally not look at you and keep walking by. And I find this fascinating, because if we cannot respond back to an offer of kindness, the bridge is already broken. So if the bridge is to show kindness and to show love, then it means that we all have to bridge one another with this intentionality to be kind to one another. And after that, a journey does begin. We actually pick up where the person is. We actually journey with that person through this lens of kindness and love.
And you're not just the Catholic chaplain.
No.
Well, and I think that's something that students don't necessarily understand. I am not the chaplain just for the Protestant students. We each are chaplains for all students of all faiths and students of no faith.
Of no faith.
Sure. So one of the first things that I was taught in seminary, I took a course in basic pastoral care. At that time, I was the mother of 3 children and the daughter of a needy mother. So one might say that I knew how to offer care.
Yeah, you sure
and,
did.
and that whole first semester was based on the way we offer care is to be present with one another. And of course, that's what I think a chaplain's job is. We are present. You can find us there. You can, if you need to talk to somebody, we'll listen. I'm not going to tell you to become an Episcopalian at the end of whatever you tell me. If you ask me about the Episcopal Church, goodness knows I am happy to talk about it.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. The point is if someone needs to talk about whatever it is, we will listen to it and honor them as sharing something that's important to them. Period, the end, about whatever it's about. And so in that way, we are imams and ministers and priests and rabbis
Exactly.
and your old granny, all at the same time.
Yeah. I struck by the priest in I growing up Roman Catholic. The priest, my mother wanted me to be a priest. There is a real sense of this the priesthood is the place to be. And I wonder, your faith journey, for instance, Imam, is an interesting one. I know a little about it, but when you hear as an imam, you are an imam, but you are also a man. Talk about your own faith journey, because I think it relates to where we are. Because I bet all of you are seeking something in your lives.
We still are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't.
And you do
it
that
doesn't
till you
stop.
die.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Till you die.
Yeah.
If we talk about my journey, you look back in the Quran, and what it says is that you should strive to be the best human being you're capable of becoming. And we call that, there's no such thing as a holy war, but we call that Jihad Akbar. Means that's the greatest struggle, to develop yourself to be what God created you to be. So that's the struggle. The other thing that helps me in that struggle is that, and I talk about tolerating something and respecting something, a little different in there. I had to think about that for a while. But in the Quran, it says whether you're a Christian, Jew, Muslim, Sabian, which was a religious sect back then, or anything, it says if you believe in God and do righteous deeds, on you shall be no fear, and you're going to get your reward with your Lord. So that opened it up to everybody. Prophet Muhammad said that there would be X amount of sects in the Jewish faith tradition. There'll be a certain number of sects, and more than the Jews, in the Christian religion. And the ones who's going to have the greater division are the Muslims.
Really?
So we see that in play today. And it's worse in Islam because there's no hierarchy. Every masjid is independent. Every single masjid is independent.
And you use a word there that I don't know. Every single master?
Masjid.
Masjid.
That's where we place of worship.
Aha.
Like a
Or
mosque,
center.
like a mosque.
So you, as a child, I thought that the priest is representative of the church, and you get their calling from God and all of that stuff. The imam is you're chosen by your
Community.
Your community. Is that similar to the rest of you? I mean, Reverend Hess, for instance.
Well, after seminary, 3 years of graduate level work, we go before our Committee on Church and Ministry, and we are ordained. So we're a little bit like the Imam mentioned, because in the United Church of Christ, each individual church is autonomous. Now, we are together with other United Church of Christ churches through a covenant. We choose to be in relationship with them, but we don't have a bishop or a pope. We don't have anyone who oversees what we're doing on a local level.
Whereas the Episcopalian and the Roman Catholic
Yeah.
Church.
We have bishops. So in the Episcopal Church, we have bishops. The Episcopal Church is a group of believers who worship in the United States and in 17 foreign countries. We're all the Episcopal Church. We have bishops in geographic locations. So I answer to the Bishop of Western Massachusetts. And those bishops get together and elect a presiding bishop, and they meet together as a house of bishops to make decisions. And every 3 years, the entire church meets together in a general convention, and deputies are elected to general convention from among the priests and deacons and lay people. So I'm also a deputy to our general convention, and get to participate in the legislative action of the church. And if it sounds like the way the United States works, that's because the same people who wrote the Constitution then walked 2 blocks to Christ Church in Philadelphia and put together the Constitution of the Episcopal Church. So we have this strange sort of mix of Catholicism with a Catholic hierarchy, but also with government like the United States.
A little
So it's a
di-
little bit of both.
diplomacy in a
Yeah,
way.
yeah, it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Right.
Father.
As you know, in the Catholic Church, we don't have a democratic process, so to speak, to elect our bishops or even our pope. The pope's a bishop, but he's a bishop only in communion with other bishops. And so the real, I guess you would say, the real linchpin of the Catholic Church is this notion of communio. They stand in communion with one another. No bishop is a bishop by himself, even though he presides over a local church. He's a bishop in communion with other bishops to exercise the ministry in communion with other bishops. And of course, we have a hierarchy. So we're in communion with the bishops, who are in communion with the priests, in communion with the deacons, and they should be in communion with the laity. But again, the hierarchical structure kind of makes it difficult for us to understand this notion of communio. So you have this hierarchical pyramid structure, but this collegial structure working side by side, and it causes a little bit of tension because some people prefer the pyramid model, the Pope, and the lay people at the base, and then you got the more kind of collegial model where you stand in communion. So you see this competition going on within the Catholic Church. But the real sense of the Church is that we are all universally connected to one universal church. So the Catholic Church is everywhere in the world. We have a common ritual. We have a kind of a common ritual for baptism and marriage and the Eucharist, et cetera, et cetera. Although it's adapted locally to particular cultures, but there's a universal way of doing things. We have a universal canon law. So all of these things kind of hold the church together. The real focus is on unity and communion together, and sometimes that is not often reflected in some of the ways we practice our faith.
Yes.
The best bishops I know in both the Episcopal Church, the larger Anglican Communion, which is where the Episcopal Church comes from, the Lutheran Church, the Roman Catholic Church, the best bishops I know, and I think I see this in some of what Pope Francis does, is they see that hierarchical pyramid as the bishop at the bottom holding things up, rather than the people at the bottom pointing to somebody who's in charge of them. Yeah. It's the bishop who is the servant of all, and it holds up this intensely strong structure.
Quite a different way.
The good bishops I know act that way.
Well, I mean,
and on behalf of the people.
Mother Nancy's raising, she's right that the bishop should be a servant, but that is not universal. It might be accepted by a few.
I said
but
it's a good idea.
I know, but it is certainly
I didn't say everybody did.
Not universally accepted either in the Anglican or Roman Catholic traditions, because we still live somewhat in the Constantinian model, the emperor rules.
Yeah.
And I think we still have to shed some of the emperor's clothes to get back to the original intent of why Jesus came. He says, "I come not to be served, but to serve."
Amen.
And that's the fundamental reality of what authority looks like. This is what we're all called to be: servants of love and compassion and peace to one another. Absolutely. It's not, and our greatest disease. This is my own kind of feeling. One of the greatest diseases in our church is clericalism, where it's all about.
What do you mean by that?
It's all about the clergy. It's about me. It's another. I give it another name. It's called narcissism, where it's all about me and nobody else. So I'm the center stage. Everything is controlled by me. Everything is about me. It supports my intentions, and so you really don't matter. When you have a narcissistic disorder, you see no one else. And sometimes even in clericalism, you only see yourself and nobody else. So you are living in a culture of entitlement. You feel that I deserve this, that I'm entitled to this. And that, to me, it runs contrary to the gospel and everything Jesus taught during his lifetime and ministry on earth. So I think one of the greatest challenges in the church today, this is the culture that gave rise to the misuse of power, that led to the abuse of people, young people, children, whoever. This is a very serious issue that needs to be addressed, and you can't just scratch the surface. You got to really dig deep and uproot the central causes of this disease, which is clericalism.
Do you find that in the Muslim church, Imam?
Each, as I said previously, each masjid, that's Arabic.
Yeah.
Masjid, English is mosque.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah. We're all independent, and we're very cemented into being autonomous. So it's hard to bring us all together. But when I talk about the journey, and I said we are to strive to be the very best human being we're capable of becoming, but we also have a side mission with that. As you become better, you're obligated to make your communities what God deemed them to be. So you got to be developing self, and you got to be out there doing the work to bring the people to that path, whatever it may be. You know what I do, and not to toot my own horn.
Oh, go ahead.
And I enjoy it. When you talk about New Year's Eve, Christmas, Easter, you're gonna find me at a church, and I enjoy it.
Really?
I enjoy it. I enjoy the spirit. I enjoy the music. I enjoy the performance of the young people. And guess what? I learn a lot from their sermons.
Amazing. Wow.
But
He steals all my homilies and
Is
uses
that-
them. He does. He steals all my homilies.
And guess what?
Yeah.
He's telling the truth.
He does. He,
Why should I reinvent the wheel?
Well,
well, you should at least give me some you know.
Some credit.
Well, no, more than credit.
Oh, money. Oh,
exactly.
There you
it
go.
all goes.
But,
Oh, my
but
God.
they teach us in Islam to give credit where credit is due. So I do give you credit.
Yeah, you
if
do,
I
you
take
do.
something from anybody,
Yeah.
I tell them where I got it from.
Yeah.
It's not me that came
Well,
up
see,
with
and
these
I think-
wonderful ideas.
I think that's so important, Imam, that we, you know, there have been 10 good ideas. No, I don't. There's been one.
What?
There's been one good idea. It was God's good idea. God created us. That's the good idea. Everything else is derivative from that. Everything else is derivative from the love of God. And God calls us to love God and love one another. So I heard what you say, Warren, that the greatest sin is clericalism. I think that the greatest sin is narcissism. Not so, it can play out as clericalism
absolutely.
among
Ah,
those of
I
us who
gotcha.
love to wear a clerical
Yeah,
collar.
yeah, I do, yeah.
But what my presiding bishop says is the opposite of love is selfishness. If the opposite of God's love is selfishness, we are on a journey to find out who we are because God created us. If it's all about who we are and not about anybody else and not about God, then it becomes perverted. That's narcissism. And it can become perverted in horrible sexual ways.
Sure.
But it can also become perverted in a narcissist who is only interested in his or her own self.
You know what?
There you
go.
I tell people, and I emphasize this, in the Quran it talks about the interaction between God and it would be your Lucifer, Iblis in the Arabic, but Lucifer. And the conversation is God is making man, creating man with all these abilities. And Lucifer, who was into himself, and I'm the most beautiful, the smartest, the everything, he said to God, I am better than them. I should be the one in that position. And I tell people, anytime you feel that you're better than somebody else, who do you sound like?
There you go.
Yes.
Satan.
Yeah.
Satan.
Yeah.
So that kind of...
So I'll tell you, we're going to take a break. When we come back, then let's talk about the role that, we have reverend, we have mother, we have father, and we have imam here. And how, as clergy, you both are collegial with your community and also are the model in a sense. And that's a hard road to go. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
So inspiring. How you've impacted people is enormous.
Drop off a warm meal and get more than you expect. Volunteer at americaletsdolunch.org.
America, let's do lunch.
Well, we're back here at around a common table, and I've got Reverend Hess here from the United Church of Christ. Did I get that straight?
United Church of Christ, Second Congregational Church.
In Westfield, Massachusetts. We've got Mother Nancy Webb Stroud.
That's it. You got it,
I
Bob.
got it. Oh,
Yay.
my God.
9 years later.
Yeah,
you got it right.
The
There you go.
Church of the Atonement in Westfield on Court Street. Beautiful church. And then we have Father Warren Savage. And Father Warren Savage is the director of the Interfaith, the Albert and Amelia First Interfaith Center here at Westfield State University. And we have Imam Rasul Saifullah, oh my word. When Rabbi Eisen is here, I always get his first name wrong. And I know when folks listen to the program later on in the season, you'll hear me butchering that name as well. So Reverend, or rather Imam Rasul. Imam, you're an imam.
I'm an imam.
And Father, you're a father, and Mother, you're a mother. And
Yeah,
I mean that in the nicest way.
I am a mother. I am a priest of the Episcopal Church. I am also a mother of 3 children.
And Reverend, yes.
But Father Savage and Mother Nancy are reverends too.
They are.
Yes. Well,
Yes.
that's
See,
just a
we're-
little English usage.
We're reverends, but I'm not a mother or a father. Well, other than
Yeah,
Other
but-
than you are a mother.
My
Mother and a father.
You see all these titles getting away, these titles?
yeah.
Titles get in the way.
Getting away.
Just
Yeah.
call me Nancy, why don't you?
get in
That
the
would
way.
be okay
Yeah,
with me.
because I think you're on a plane and somebody says, what do you do?" And you say, "Well, I'm a priest," and then immediately they're calling you father, and you've got a separation, and you're viewed as a leader, a model, and or the enemy.
Well, it's
Right.
frustrating also when I go to donate and it has the drop down for the title. It will have father. Sometimes it'll have sister. Very rarely will it have reverend. And so I've been tempted to put Father Barbara Hess. Just
Yeah.
Gotcha.
There are female Episcopal priests who actually use father because they use it as an ungendered title because they don't like mother. Now, I loved my mother, so I have no problem with being called mother.
Yeah.
And my predecessor at the Church of the Atonement was Father Rick, so I'm happy to be Mother Nancy if people want a title. But the truth is, I don't need a title. I was given the name Nancy at my baptism. That's plenty of title for me. Nancy is fine. And we were talking a little bit in the last segment about how do we balance between unhealthy narcissism, that is, too much love of self. How do we balance between that and being leaders of a congregation of people? And because that is what I'm called to do. I'm called to lead the congregation of the Church of the Atonement. And it's really tough. But the key is to remember that where my journey in faith started, my journey towards God started with my baptism. And I was given a name at my baptism, and it was my first name, Nancy. And that's how you call me. That's how God calls me. And that's enough. And if I can have that attitude when I'm making a decision or when I'm preaching a sermon or when I'm leading a congregation to do something, then that's an attitude that I hope they can follow too. How's that work for you, Father Savage?
Well, that works perfect for me.
Good.
But I was thinking as you were sharing your reflection, when my mother and my dad, we'd be at supper table and just chatting, and my mom would always say, "Don't forget who you are, and don't forget where you come from." And she would say, "You come from God, and you are a child of God." And that kind of neutralized everything.
Yeah.
Because she says, "Don't forget where you come from. You come from God, and you're a child of God." My mom's been dead now 26 years, but those words are always running through my head like a tape. And so when I'm ministering, I always hear those words, "Don't forget where you come from." But if I come from God, back to our initial conversation here, we all come from God, which means we are all children of that same God. Now, I'm not saying I get along with all my siblings.
True enough.
I mean, but even in my own household, the Savage household, we were told you have to respect and love your brothers and sisters, and whenever something happens, you close ranks and you take care of one another. There's no disrespect in this household, and when you leave this house, you are to show respect and reverence to anybody else on that street. I don't care who it is. That's what we were taught. It was fundamental. And so for me, my whole act of being kind of comes out of this sensibility that we all come from God. We're all children of God. So just be nice as you are to your own siblings. It's
But as a
very-
member of the congregation, I will look to you for the answers. This is, I all my life I looked to my priests for the answers. When I had some psychological problems, I was an OCDer when as a child. My mother and father took me to the priest because he had the answer.
Well, you thought he had all the answers.
I thought he had all the
You
answers.
thought
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
the whole.
It's like going to the doctor.
Yeah.
I want you to cure me. So you've got your parishes, your congregations, your ministries.
But we don't want, excuse me for interrupting,
No,
but
go.
we don't want, or I will just speak for myself, I don't want my parishioners, I don't want it to be a spectator sport. There is something to be said for we're all in this together. Now, I take my role as minister very seriously. But what is it? I can't remember it now, that some people view it that the minister is the actor, the parishioners are the audience, and God is the prompter. Whereas it should be that the parishioners are the actors, the minister is the prompter, and God is the audience.
Oh boy!
So that we're
That's
doing
a different.
it.
Oh my God! That's a different mindset.
Yeah.
Totally a different whatever you call plan. To when I enter a church, if I view it that way,
Yeah.
wouldn't that be better?
It'd be
Yes.
It would be. It would
very
be
interesting.
really interesting.
It would
for
be
me.
heavenly.
It's
I
the
think.
difference between
Yeah.
embodiment and empowerment. Embodiment,
good.
the clergy, we are it. And
Yeah.
that's where you get the spectator sport aspect. Whereas empowerment, we are trying to empower the parishioners to have their own relationship directly with God.
I teach a liturgy course to deacons, and in the liturgy course, I remind the deacons, and then sometimes the priests are there. I say, you can't walk out of your sacristy until God, the church, shows up. They look at me and go, no, you can't do anything until God, the church, the people of God. That's the presence of God. When the people show up is when we enter into that reality. And they look at me and say, God is walking, the church is out there in the world. It just happens to come to the atonement or to the second congregational. It just shows up in different places. But it's only one reality that shows up in different places. But that one reality is the presence of God, and everybody there is to be respected as that child of that one God who loves. I know you mentioned the fact that you are LGC.
Yes.
Lapsed Gay Catholic.
Yeah.
Now, from the very first moment I met you, I don't get stuck on a lapsed Gay Catholic.
Yeah.
Because that's not what it's about. I just know you're a child of God, Bob. I know you have the same dignity that I have, and I know that dignity is untarnished. That dignity is not contingent upon anything you say or do because it comes from God, and it just remains pure in its own reality. What you do out there may not correspond to that dignity.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean your dignity has been tarnished or taken away from you. I have to respect your most intrinsic, the most basic person that's connected to the dignity that God has given you. For me to get stuck on the fact that you're lapsed or gay or Catholic is to miss the more fundamental point that you come from God. Now, being lapsed gay Catholic might cause some conflicts in your life, but I have to walk with you still.
Yeah.
That's
Presence.
it. I have to be exactly.
Yeah.
Mother Nancy, I have to still walk with you without judgment.
There you go.
Without judgment.
Because, well, I'm probably walking on my journey with judgment of myself.
Of
Of yourself,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you'll project that in every place you go. Now, I'm not sure what Mother Nancy's job description says, or Reverend Barbara, or the imams, but in my job description, it doesn't say I'm the judge.
Yes.
It does not.
Exactly.
There is
does
only
not-
there
does
is
not
only
say I'm
one
the
judge.
judge.
Yeah.
Does not say I'm
Where
the
are
judge.
you on that, Imam?
Was
Yeah.
mentioned judgment. There's a thing in Islam is there's a person that's telling another person you're going to hell.
Mm-hmm.
And God's response is, do you know something that I don't know?
There you have it.
And
I like
because
that.
I haven't met judgment.
Right.
I haven't judged him yet.
Yeah.
So how you know that he's going to hell?
That's right.
Yeah.
But if you give me a couple of minutes, I've been typing stuff down here.
You stealing my stuff again?
I'm stealing it. I'm piped right into it. My birth name is Anthony, and my friends call me Tony. I changed my name to Rasul Fahim Saifullah. You give yourself a name that you try to live up to. Every time you hear it, you stand up straight. And so Rasul means messenger. So I'm bringing a message. Fahim means intelligent, but it doesn't mean that the egotistic is to be able to consider yourself intelligent, you need to study. You need to do this work. And then the last thing is Saifullah. That means the sword of Allah. Not killing people, but defending my religion. So that's what my name means. But when I go home or people in the street, they go, how should I address you? I say, Tony. That's good enough, Tony.
Yeah.
You know, and that puts them at ease. I'm still that same guy. I haven't changed. And then we talk about getting involved. There's another saying, mere belief counts for naught, nothing, unless carried into practice. So don't just sit here and absorb knowledge and wisdom and don't do anything with it, because that counts for nothing when you talk about the Supreme Being. It's the work that you're doing out there. And I find in most religious institutions, the people are happy to come to Mass, come to Juma, come to your Sunday services, and that's the end of their obligation.
Right.
You got to get out there. There's, talk about mother. In the Hadith, which is a collection of sayings and practices of Prophet Muhammad.
What is it called?
It's the Hadith. They call it the Sunnah. He's our example, and we're supposed to be examples, learning from him, be examples to the rest of the world. But he says in there, a guy comes to me, and he said, who should I honor? My mother or my father? Prophet says, your mother. So he said, who's next? Your mother. Who's after that? Your mother. And then he says, come on now, who's next? He said, then your father. So that's putting mother in up here. It says in the Quran, honor the womb that bore you. It says man's happiness is at the foot of a woman. That gives you more free. But you may not see that being carried out in practice, especially in the Middle East and some of those countries around there. In that realm, they really go back to their culture. They really go back to their culture where they treat women in a dishonorable manner. But it's not what's in the Quran. It's not in the Hadith.
It almost sounds like what Mother Nancy said about the mother to me is around creation. And we are, and you said children of God, Father.
Right.
That mother creation, that whole notion that's our gift.
What's fascinating to me, and there are two words that are similar. The Jewish word for womb is rakma, rakmin, or rakma in Arabic, but the word translated literally means womb unto compassion. So when we hear Isaiah speak, can a child be without tenderness? You know, the mother of the womb that child came from, even if that mother forgets that child, I shall not forget you because I will always be the one who shows compassion. But in that Isaiah passage, the Hebrew word for womb is translated into compassion. So we actually come from the womb. The womb of God is a womb of compassion or love. Going back to what Mother, we all are born out of love.
Yeah.
And so that love is it's never disconnected. It's a love that is forever and forever whole. It's a love that's forever caring and compassionate. It's a love that is it's intimate. It's tender. That is so. It's just a rich metaphor for understanding God. This God who literally is a womb for us, the life bearer, the life giver, the life protector, the one who is forever intimate with us. That understanding of God probably is not conveyed enough to our people, no matter what tradition.
Yeah, there's some ancient, well, not too ancient, Middle Ages illuminated manuscripts. So beautiful paintings that were intended to illustrate Holy Scripture. And one of them shows the fifth wound of Christ. So we believe that Christ died on the cross, so he had wounds on his hands and his feet, and then his side was pierced by a sword. And there are medieval illuminated manuscripts that show the church being born out of the side of Christ, out of this wound on his side, that a church actually has emerged from it and is being held by a human being.
By Mary.
So Christ is the mother of the church. It's a fascinating metaphor, and it kind of got lost in the Middle Ages, and now there are some feminist scholars who are trying to bring that image back, because that's part of who we are. But you know, Bob, you said that you shared when you were a kid that your parents brought you to the priest because you had a disorder that they were concerned about. One of our jobs, I am not a psychologist. I did not go to medical school, and I know that, and I have the humility of knowing that. But I can be a referral. I can say, if a family comes to me with a kid they're concerned about, I can listen, and I can say, yeah, I'm concerned too. So let's work together to find the right place to get help for whatever it is you've come for. And I think that is one of our roles in the community as leaders, as religious leaders, is to be present with people in their pain and sorrow, and when we can make a good referral, to make a good referral.
But to stay with them too, through the process. We don't deal with the medical, we don't deal with the psychological, but we are with them through that process. We don't just say, hey,
sayonara.
See you later. I'm out of here.
Right.
It's like the church as a clinic. I don't really like that metaphor because, in a sense, only because as the patient going to the there, I'm rather than. The difference between a life coach and a therapist, sort of.
It's funny. I mean, Pope Francis refers to the church as a field hospital among the wounded, those who are suffering in pain. He sees the church as responding to those wounds, responding to the pain. Not a church that's isolated and protected, insular unto itself, kind of an institutionalized, narcissistic, disordered institution, but more of a presence in a wounded world in which everyone who's called with his or her gifts to bring forward love and compassion through those gifts and talents to those who are wounded, the weak, the vulnerable, the poor, all those beautiful people who are crying out for help, who might be left to die if no one doesn't come and act in the image of a good Samaritan, so to speak.
I'm on a journey. I'm on the road. I pass the mosque. I pass the church. I pass the synagogue. And there is the rabbi, the imam, the priest, the minister, waiting with their arms open, welcoming me. And I have to have a different mindset, in a sense, in order to take that step toward them and it's a transactional kind of thing that I'm not going there to be judged. In the past, I really thought of the church as a place where I'm going to have my sins washed away, and rather than I need to have somebody there on my journey, and you are the coach stops in a way.
Well, yeah.
For
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
you know, I don't know. I need to hitch my wagon to something, and it better be a star somewhere. You've got the stars, you know. We've got just a very few minutes, and I think we've covered a lot today, and I have missed this for 2 years, and I hope our audience has missed this across the common table. It's so important that we do this show and we do it regularly, and people listen regularly, and you tell your friends out there to listen, because to hear this dialogue, it's so important, and to take what we say as people on a journey.
Well, one of the things that I want to emphasize around the table, this dialogue around the table could not take place if we didn't have respect for one another. Because
That's absolutely
I mean,
right.
we respect one.
Trust.
No one is saying I got the answer, I got the truth. We're all trying to search this through this dialogue, and everybody brings something to the table that widens. First of all, widens our mind and our hearts, that we're able to embrace another perspective, that we're able to make room in our hearts for another person to sit at the table of my heart, not this concrete table, but the fleshy table where we feel each other's struggles or pains or searching, whatever that is, we are able to sit together and kind of walk together. And I think that is what we model for the university. I think that's what we model for Westfield City. Mm-hmm. I think that's how we model this ability to transcend the differences and the boundaries so that we can come to a place and just simply listen together to the deep stirrings of the God of love, who is obviously present in so many ways, even in the yucca duck muck of life.
I love it.
Can I have 1 minute?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Imam.
I'm a person. I love to laugh. I love to have a good time. I think that enhances you as a human being. But you were talking about, to me, penance, how you can make up for what you thought was wrong. But I was raised Catholic, and I went to Catholic school from the 1st grade to the 12th grade. But when people speak about penance, there's one thing that pops in my mind. If you've been in a Catholic church, they have confessionals on both sides. And so Saturday, you usually come in and make your penance. And you'll hear a priest blast somebody in one of those confessionals.
Oh, I've had that. Oh,
and
my
you know
gosh,
what
yes.
you do? Everybody gets up and goes to another confessional. I'm not going in there with that guy.
I love that. We have to talk about penance sometime, and forgiveness, and all of that. And there's, that's the best thing about this program for me as a person on a journey, is to have the ability to talk to some really wise folks who are friends as well as ministers, as well as imams and priests and rabbis. We are unfortunately coming to the end of our program today, but I thank you guys. And how about Mother Nancy? Just give us a blessing to take us out.
My brothers and sisters, life is short, and we do not have much time to gladden the hearts of those who make this earthly pilgrimage with us. So be swift to love. Make haste to do kindness. Shower abundant hospitality upon friend and stranger. Walk in justice, that you may follow the path of mercy and love.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen, yes.
Amen. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And look, we'll be right back, next month, I hope, with another program. And I will see you soon. And thank you, everyone on the panel. Always
Thank
a
you.
pleasure.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Peter.